let's start with reframing, and if
Mhm.
maybe you can almost look at it through like a cognitive behavioral
Yeah.
distortions, right? Cognitive biases that come up when someone's underslept or under or over aroused. So let's dive into that, and then the meaning part. I think logotherapy, and finding,
Mhm.
through Viktor Frankl's work
I mean,
around.
that's like the best, that's like the best example of it. I mean, I mean, he's the goat of that. Like,
Exactly. So
you
let's
know.
dive into that. So what cognitive distortions or unhelpful thinking styles do you see more prominent in a underslept, executive or poker player? Like what are the things you look out for and maybe are most detrimental to high performance?
So
Yeah.
yeah, so what's okay, so this is what's interesting. So high performers that I've worked with, they're not, you have to be hyper aware, because I don't feel like it's rare that I get on the phone with them and they're like in a completely distorted narrative. It's not, it's not like, oh my God, like, what do you, it's subtle. It's really subtle. It's like they say things that they normally don't say. They'll like, they slip like, I just can't believe this is happening. It's just like a little slip up. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of like, all right, they're probably being on their best behavior because they know I'm listening and so on and so forth. But it's trying to capture, I believe, those like little subtleties, which are for that person. So for me, I look for like themes of victim-based mentality, right? Like they just feel like something's out to get them. I also look for, I start immediately when I hear things like that, I go towards not the playing field. So if somebody talks about having a really rough session or a really rough meeting, like the first thing I do is explore like family, social, like all the outside dynamics that I believe are like exasperants for those particular things. And then we start to go there and we basically, I can't tell you the amount of times that it's like, yeah, things are not going well at home. It's like, okay, so let's, and we start going down that rabbit hole, and little things start to add up to massive cognitive distortions, where
Yeah.
now they have the lens that like things, everything in life is just not working for them. And sometimes when somebody's in their own head, and I mean, I have 3 coaches that I work with to prevent myself from doing this. I mean, I think that's why you need a coach in your life often, is because you don't have the perspective.
Mm.
Right before this call, I talked to one of my coaches, John Michael Morgan, and I'm saying something and he's like, well, and then I hear myself saying it. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't, that's not grounded in reality. Right. So, a lot of it is, I don't believe a lot of problems from high performers come from like,
Mhm.
they're masters of their craft. Like it's, what else, what's going on that you're not telling me? And what do we need to do to affect that? And being able to carve and cut that out and hold them accountable, and just also sometimes just make sure that I'm there for them and know that I will hold them accountable helps as well. And
Beautiful.
also it's hard, like when you're coaching, like I'm a very frameworks based person, like all my work is grounded in frameworks, and it's like the higher level, the higher framework everything falls into. But sometimes you just see something, it's like a subtlety, and you're like, nah, this person needs a little bit more love today. This person needs a little bit, but listen, man, this person needs like, no, toughen up and let's go. It's a way more dynamic thing than I think most people realize. And I use behavior to guide my coaching. Like sometimes if I'm like, this person's going to end this call in tears today. Like that's what's going to, like, that's what they need. And sometimes it's enjoyment.
You mentioned finding meaning. So tell me a little bit about helping executives, helping poker players find meaning during, yeah, maybe high risk situations, maybe during, after a failed tournament, or yeah.
Finding meaning is an interesting question. So like, it's very cliche to say, but like, I really believe in this whole like multiple why model of why you're doing something. And then when I start stuff off, I like to get a sense of that, of like, all right, like, why are you playing poker? And sometimes the answer is like, I've been doing this for the past 15 years. It's the only thing that I'm good at. And I'm like, all right, that's like a little bit of a red flag, right? Like, and other times it's like, oh, it's the most intriguing, intellectually stimulating game. I love it so much. Like I had one client fairly recently who I started talking to. I'm like, he was kind of bringing up retiring. And I was like, I think that's the right move for you. Cause I could hear it in his voice. The way he talked about the game was like considerably less enthusiasm. But I really think it also boils down to personal commitments and like what a person is actually committed to. And sometimes all you need to do is remind them of that. So there's this, I tell us a lot in poker, like this is another long time ago, like 8 or 9 years ago, I was working with this firefighter who wanted to, his basically goal, he was like a lower stakes player, and he wanted to pay for have enough cash to buy a house for his family. And the whole plan was to do poker as a vehicle for that, right? And he was a pretty exceptional player, but had struggled with like the mental game and sort of that kind of aspect of the game. So in the middle of a session, he texted me and he's like, hey, listen, like it's not going really well. Like I'm a little bit, I'm making mistakes. I'm not really focused. And then I went on Facebook and like I took a screenshot of his family, and I didn't say anything. All I did was send him a picture of his family, the picture of him and his family. And he was like, got it. And the reason why I said that was because we spent all the time saying that was going to be, that's why he's doing this. Like he's doing it because and it's also, you know, he enjoys playing poker too. It's not that, but it's like the reason why I'm taking it so seriously is because this can be a vehicle or a way for providing that. And I think, I mean, I speak for myself too. It's like, we have to be reminded of why we do what we do. And I don't believe in like, everybody needs to have a purpose-driven profession and all that stuff. But like, you know, I have a friend that works 10 to 15 hours a week, and he is a sales executive and he makes a lot. So it was so funny. We were driving together. I was like, what do you work? I said, what do you work? Like 60 to 70 hours a week. And he goes, 60 to 70 hours a week. Like 10 to 15 most days. If you come downstairs and see me, I'm playing Oculus golf. And I was like, but he's created this amazing life for himself, that he's allowed to live the life the way he wants. So there is still purpose in when he's working, and so on and so forth. So I really believe that taking people a process, and I feel like from a behavioral perspective, you know, 45 minutes, not even, sometimes like 10 minutes with somebody, you could tell, all right, they're not happy with what they're doing. You can kind of see it.
So you're driving deep into their kind of intrinsic motivators. It sounds like family, the values.
Yeah,
for them.
but so I guess the layer that I'm not really talking about right now is I do all this stuff, but I record people while doing it. So that's what I do differently. So I show them, look what you would look like when you talked about your job. And I play it for them and they go, oh my God, yeah, I don't seem happy. And I'm like, look what you do when you talked about, you know, your part-time thing. Look how happy you are. Like, and when people see it, there's a way more visceral reaction. Also as a coach, it's phenomenal because they don't fight you as much. Like, it's like, all right, like, look what you look like. I have nothing really to like, here you go. Here's you.